So now that I have the TEDx Breckenridge audition under my belt, I'm finally being able to exhale. And it's actually quite pleasant today here in Littleton. And it's a different change of pace. I stopped here at the memorial, which you see behind me is the Columbine High School memorial that I visited yesterday. And I didn't have the it was really quiet and serene yesterday. It was raining slightly. I got a little wet, and it was windy. And I didn't have the heart to pull out my camera and actually film. I felt almost as if it was intruding on the solitude. And I still feel that to a certain degree here today, but life moves on. And I think that they have done very hard to not get stuck in the past, obviously, after 23 years. That being said, you can still feel the repercussions of the notoriety of what is Columbine High School to this day. As I tentatively approached the front of the school, the parking lot was full as opposed to yesterday because right behind me there is a unicorn festival going on, and I don't know if you can see, but the crowds of life and normalcy resume right behind the memorial over there, with colors and life and frivolity, right along the serenity of the memorial where I was all by myself yesterday. But when I approached the school, I was looking around. I didn't think I was looking suspicious, but I was approached after a few minutes by a police officer who asked me what I was doing. And I said I had visited the memorial yesterday and I was drawing some inspiration, that I had just finished a TEDx audition, and that I am a mental health advocate. And I'm not going to lie, there is the notoriety and the morbid curiosity that people hold when they come to a place such as Columbine. I'm finding myself here for the first time. I'm not going to lie. I thought that perchance I could just freely walk right up to the west entrance where Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris went in and shot Richard Castaldo and killed Rachel Scott first, right up to the library, that I could just sit on the grass perchance and where they died and imagine what that was like. And I should have known better, because 23 years later, after all this time, the officer had said, we just have to check, make sure nothing's suspicious. After all, this is Columbine. And when you think about the number of schools that have achieved this status in the years that have followed, with Parkland and Uvalde, which I had heard in the news that they're going to tear down. They did tear down Sandy Hook to avoid that notoriety. And I am going to flip over the camera here at my surroundings because I am on this lovely walkway that divides Columbine High School just over the ridge right there. And you can see the baseball team and the pitch practicing. School had just gotten out. And I'm not able to see the New Hope Library. There is a sign right in front of the entrance that says no trespassing, absolutely, and that they will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law because they are Columbine. And I have to wonder what that status will be at Parkland and the countless number of schools and places right next to this place of serenity that I just visited yesterday in the memorial, which is very beautiful. I paid tribute to every one of the victims. I read their eulogies and I rubbed my hand across their names. And in the background you see the Unicorn Festival of Littleton and life carrying on as normal, as it should. It still is surreal to find myself here just because I have done so much research, and I have watched a lot of YouTube videos that cater to the morbidity of the location. But being here in person, seeing life carry on as normal, that's the way that it should be. And if I were to have been here a few weeks ago when school was still in session, I'm sure they would have felt the same. And it's tragic and unfortunate that there has to be a patrolman and cops monitoring the entrance and the perimeter of the school of a mass shooting 23 years later, as the officer had indicated to me. After all, this is Columbine, and they have to monitor anything suspicious. And that is tragic, and I thanked the man for doing his job well, despite the fact that I had told him that I'm a mental health advocate. And I did indeed dedicate my audition to Austin Eubanks and Corey DePuter, who are together again, as corny as that may sound. Best friends at Columbine who are together again. Having just realized a few days ago that I saw myself in a man named Austin Eubanks, and you should Google him. He's a former TEDx speaker who was 17 years old at Columbine when he watched Dylan Klebold murder his best friend in front of him. And he was shot in the hand and the foot and recovered from his physical pain. He was medicated within hours of being shot. And Austin's main message was that opiates treat emotional pain way more than they treat physical pain. And I found that out as well. The similarities that Austin and I drew, which I just found out days ago, was that we were made to suffer the better part of 20 years of addiction and substance abuse, and we had shared a great deal of the same vices in Adderall and oxycodone and Xanax. I stopped right there at polypharmacy, but he had access to street drugs and illegalities, and he fought brave, and he was an internationally known public speaker and mental health care advocate. And I had no idea that he died of a heroin overdose 3 years ago, days after he had given a public speaking talk. And that is the reality of what addiction is. That is the illness. And sticking to my honesty, I saw myself in him yet again, because I've had a lot of stressors and a lot of triggers, and I had inadvertently taken too much of that Advil with the extra diphenhydramine in it a couple of days ago, due to my stress, my financial obligations, my mom guilt, the toll of my family life, and the pressures of trying to fill a role that in a lot of ways it's hard to achieve. And that was just a couple days ago, right before my audition, because it's an illness. Very much like Austin. The world, I'm sure, was shocked when they learned of his passing, but in a way I'm not so shocked, because that is the illness that we both share. It's always with you, and it only takes a moment to have the narrative entice you to succumb, whether it's diphenhydramine or heroin. And that's why I felt his loss personally, and he was only 37 years old. And that's why I want to, having now just turned 38 a couple months ago, I feel like I want to pick up the call where he left off, embracing the commonalities that we had. And I do feel somber again. I will take a moment to go down to the memorial one more time. But this is Columbine, and life is carrying on as normal, and that's how it should be. And I really hate to think that we live in a world where there has to be armed policemen and security around the perimeters of schools that are closed. Such is the case as Columbine High School 23 years after this tragedy. I will let you know. It would be so amazing if I landed this talk, and I will let you know. I'll see you later.